and high praise and gratitudes to media arts students intern Najme, who designed and made this year's accolades, the booklet showcasing all the winning works, and of course, all the incredible students who submitted their work. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you.
Val, would you like to say a little bit about the history of the Katie Besser Awards?
Sure. I'm honored to be part of this today. Thank you so much for including the library today, Emily. It means a lot. Many folks have paved the road for this 2020 Zoom version of the Katie Besser Student Awards. Nearly 20 years ago, they first began when Dean Colleen Lynch started a student writing contest in the early 2000s. Full-time faculty member Shuli Lambden ran the event for several years. In 2009, faculty member Daniel Kirkpatrick took over the endeavor and shifted the focus from a contest to the idea of an awards system and changed the name to the Student Writing Awards. Moving forward, students had their celebration readings at Collected Works bookstore in downtown Santa Fe. Soon after, when Deborah Bolt came on as director as the SFCC Foundation, she brought a lot of support and enthusiasm for the event. Deborah created the connection to the Richard Bradford Memorial Creative Writing Scholarship in 2011. Michael McGarity, a celebrated local author and chief donor to the scholarship and personal friend to Richard Bradford, became a regular part of the celebration a couple years later, ensuring that Bradford's legacy was part of the event. Most recently, Deborah Bolt also facilitated an endowment of the prizes in 2017 through Bruce Besser in memory of his wife, Katie Besser, and the endeavor has included her name since then. Beginning in the 2017-2018 school year, Emily Stern took over the directorship of the awards and has implemented exciting new ideas like a text and image category, an instructor-nominated category, and collaboration with the SFCC Media Arts. Last year, the Katie Besser Student Award celebration reading was hosted at Meow Wolf to a full house. This year, we're honored and grateful to the SFCC Library for hosting our first ever celebration reading on Zoom. So welcome, everyone.
All right. Thank you so much, Val. Okay. Well, so now we're going to begin with our first artist / presenter, and I'm going to be doing some screen sharing at the same time. Wish me luck. And I'm going to be sharing the artwork from each of our contributors. So let me begin by doing that. We are going to begin with Cristhian Tierney. And one second, I'm just making it all work here. So Cristhian.
And I'm unmuting you, Cristhian.
There.
There you go.
And I will be, let's see, pulling up your image. Oops. There we go. All right. Can everybody see?
Yes.
Oh, okay, great. All right. So Cristhian moved to Santa Fe around 2 years ago. And she has been attending SFCC as of this semester to obtain an Associate of Science in Physical Science. Although she does plan to eventually go to a four-year university to study mathematics, she's always been interested in photography, but has only recently tried to take it more seriously. She's still very new to these creative endeavors and excited to continue to grow and learn. Cristhian, would you like to say a few words about your piece?
Hi there.
Hello.
So minor correction, I am actually male.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Please forgive me, and thank you so much for clarifying.
It's all happens, especially when you can't see face to face.
Yeah.
So I was down in rural New Mexico, kind of near a city called TRC, and there's a little tiny village called Monticello, which has about 100 people in it or so. And it's kind of on some of the back roads, and it was just an opportunity I saw, and it was right after the storm had come by the previous night before, and it was a beautiful day out, and I just saw this opportunity to take this photo, hills and this kind of just right at the rainstorm, and so that's kind of it's come from.
Thank you so much. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you. And you received an honorable mention. I meant to mention that. Thank you so much for your submission.
You're welcome, and thank you.
All right. Our next presenter will be Angeli Lucero, and she has an honorable mention. They have an honorable mention in poetry, and the title of their piece is Wants to Be Her. And Angeli, are you here?
If you are, will you please post something in the chat box? I'm not finding the name.
Okay.
We'll give it just a second.
Sure.
I don't see anything coming up.
Okay. Alrighty. That's all right. I'll read. Angeli, for Angeli, writing has always been a way for, Angeli writes, writing has always been a way for me to relieve frustration because when I was born, the doctors diagnosed me with mild cerebral palsy and jaw-winking ptosis. Despite some difficulties that I have faced, I will be graduating with my CNA from Santa Fe Community College and with my diploma from the master's program with 27 plus credits. My goals for the future include traveling, learning to better understand myself, and most importantly, doing what makes me happy, which is following my dreams, regardless of what anyone thinks. So thank you, Angeli, here in spirit. And our next presenter is Linda Maddox. Linda, are you here?
There's somebody named Linda who I am unmuting.
Oh, goody. Linda, hello.
I don't know.
Can you unmute yourself?
Yeah, there you go.
I did.
You're good.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Great.
Okay.
All right, Linda, would you like for me to read your bio for you?
Yes.
Okay. Linda K. Maddox. Linda wrote an essay called Some Things I Remember About Living on the Ranch, and it was the runner-up in the instructor-nominated category. And Linda writes, I was born in Austin, Texas on September 27th, 1945. My mother moved me and my brother to Santa Fe in 1950. We were just little tykes. I grew up here, went to school here, but in my senior year, my parents moved to Rio Doso, New Mexico. I attended the small school there for 3 months, and then they moved to Albuquerque. I spent my last year at Sandia High School, where my granddaughter is now graduating, albeit remotely. I attended UNM for 3 years, married, had 2 beautiful children, and moved in with my Army husband. After service, we moved back to Albuquerque, and we both attended nursing school. In 1980, we separated, and I moved back to Santa Fe with my mother and continued to work as a nurse. I'm going to skip down just a little bit, Linda.
That's okay.
In 2012, I retired from being an RN, and so now I can pursue whatever I want to do. No more punching in the time clock. My time is my own, and I use it to my advantage. And using the senior discount, I have pursued the most interesting and fascinating classes here at SFCC. Thank you for being one of them. Thank you, Linda. And would you like to please read your essay? And I'll keep an eye on time over here and let you know
I
if
cut
you're...
out several paragraphs hoping to cut it down.
It's going to be
So-
fantastic. Enjoy your reading, Linda. Let's welcome Linda.
Okay. Some things I remember about living on the ranch. When my dad was a young man, he helped a man named Wendell Hall build the fences around the 160 acres Mr. Hall had homesteaded south of town. Then, years later, Mr. Hall, his wife, and daughter were going to Alaska to live for 5 years. He asked my mom and dad to come and live on the place and take care of it for them. They agreed, and we moved out to the ranch. I was about 12 years old, my brother 13. I remember P.O. Box 4484 was our mailing address, with the little post office on Cordova Road, where what the cat dragged in is now. I remember learning to drive the old blue Chevy pickup truck with the running boards on the dirt road on the way home from town. And I remember the fun I had driving the red World War II Jeep across the open land, knocking down choyas. I remember my mother coming home and telling us she had seen a large rattlesnake up by the cattle guard and had taken the hoe and chopped it into pieces. My brother and I rushed up to see, and the pieces were still moving and wriggling. I remember learning to saddle up the horse Rusty, an old rodeo horse. My dad had taught me when I was putting on the saddle to knee the horse in the belly and then pull the strap up as tight as you can. Otherwise, the horse takes a deep breath, and when you get on the saddle, it slips and you fall off. I remember I had a girlfriend who lived up the Arroyo Hondo, and she would ride her horse down, and I would ride Rusty up, and we would meet and ride together. I remember taking the dogs and riding south toward open land. One day I met a man out by one of the windmills used to water the cattle, and he warned me about bringing the dogs, as they put out coyote poison and the dogs might find one of those. This was in the mid-1950s, so conservation wasn't around yet. I remember we had a windmill, and if the wind blew especially hard, Dad had to go out and shut the windmill off so it wouldn't pump so much and break. We had a well that gave lots of good water. I remember we had a garden and fruit trees. The peaches were really good, except they had a fuzz on them that made my face itch until I learned to wash them off. I don't remember tending to the garden. I think my parents did most of the work, as well as have a business in town. I remember we had chickens and plenty of eggs. My mom probably took them into town along with the milk from the cow. My parents got a Jersey Guernsey milk cow when we moved out to the ranch. I remember that they always had to be home in the morning and the evenings to milk the cow. We couldn't go on vacation. They had to milk the cow. I remember the little kittens born to the blind cat, Mittens, would get squirted with the milk. They were born in the little barn that doubled as the milking shed. I still have the milking stool they used. I remember when the baby chicks got big and started to become roosters and hens. My parents decided to dress the young males and put them in the freezer. I can remember the day vividly. Lined up, there were 2 large tubs of real hot water. These were to plunge the dead chickens into to loosen the feathers to make them easier to pluck. Then there was the chopping block where Dad would separate the head from the body with a swift swing of the hatchet. He would then let the body of the chicken run around, spewing blood until it fell down. My brother and I thought that was very funny. Then he would pick it up and hang it upside down to bleed out. Then my mom would dunk and pluck and gut and make ready for the freezer. I don't remember me or my brother being of much help in all this, except to go retrieve another rooster. I remember riding the bus home from school. We were the last ones to be dropped off. It went down Old Santa Fe Trail, down Zia, and out South Galisteo. We still had about a quarter mile to walk from on top of the hill down the road to our house. The old road actually continued on south to the town of Galisteo, it being only 2 ruts since no one used it anymore. I remember wearing my new red coat with the hood and how elegant I felt and warm against the wind. I remember Dad taking us down to the arroyo and putting cans and bottles on the side of a little cliff. Then he would find a good spot a ways back and have me and my brother shoot the .22 rifle and hit the cans. I was a pretty good shot and learned to shoot in the arroyo. They let my brother use the BB gun and shoot at the pinon jays that came around the fruit trees. I remember being late for first period because the cow or the horse got out of the fence and we had to go get her. The teacher would get so upset I would have to stay after school and write, "I will not be late for school," 100 times on the blackboard. Then the next day I would be late again for a different but perfectly good reason. I couldn't help it. It's not my fault. I remember that first period teacher was Mr. Salvador Perez, the same one they named the swimming pool and park after. I remember being bucked off a horse, stepped on by a cow, and pecked by a chicken. We had a blind cat, 2 dogs, 3 horses, and a cow. I remember frozen blue jeans on the clothesline and a wringer washer with 3 tubs where Mom did the wash. It was in the bunkhouse where my brother and I had our bedrooms and a little bath with a toilet and shower. My mother would build a fire in the little pot-bellied stove for the hot water. I remember putting the clothes through the wringer and then swinging the wringer around to do the next tub. After the clothes were washed and rinsed, she would carry them out to the clothesline to dry. Then they would have to be ironed. Years later, some hippies asked my mother why she used the washer and dryer instead of hanging them out the natural way. I think you know what she said. I remember finding old Life magazines in boxes from the 1940s and the early 1950s with odd advertising and articles. Apparently, the Russians were our friends, with articles about the poor Russian peasants and how hard the war was on them and how they or their winters stopped the Germans. Interesting how the poor peasants somehow became the red menace of later years. I remember sitting on the side of one of the hills a short way from the house and looking south across the valley of the arroyo onto the plains of flat land and grass to the mountains in the distance. It was bare, open, empty land. I suddenly had a vision of houses, roads, people, and cars, development on the open land along the arroyo. It was horrifying. I am sad to say that my vision of long ago has come to pass. All around the town has been developed and continues to do so. The Halls moved back after 3 years and we moved into town. I think that my parents were relieved to be rid of so much responsibility. Now, when I look back on those days, I see how hard they must have worked to have kept things running smoothly and how oblivious I was. But whatever hardships there were, it was one of the best 3 years of my life. Did I make it? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Linda. That was beautiful. Thank you. Our next reader is Tintawi Kaitsibier, and I would like to read your bio. All right. Oops. Tintawi Kaitsibier is an interdisciplinary artist, writer, certified doula, and certified Reiki master. As a woman of African descent, her work highlights the African experience in the diaspora. She has published literary works and articles in a variety of literary magazines and the Santa Fe Reporter. Tintawi lives in New Mexico with her husband, 5 children, and a host of pets. And this is Tintawi's poem, We Speak, which is our winning poem this year.
Thank you, Emily.
Thank you so much.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Sounds perfect.
Awesome. Okay, we speak. You don't speak for me or for the life I lived and the one I am living. In a land that doesn't embrace my flesh except to pimp it, for profit never given to us. still waiting for the reparations you gave to the slaver for their loss of property. You don't speak for me in a land that swallows living bodies whole, some with child. While your children watch black blood trickle in prison cells staged for suicide, or on dark New Jersey roads held at gunpoint, or choke us and get off as you make mockery and fake trouble breathing. While your privileged kids eat their snacks after pledging allegiance to the flag we are good enough to carry at the head of battle, so we die first. You don't speak for me. Though your culture continues to commercialize and steal what they can capture of my traditions, my cornrows, my head ties, my lapas, my slang, my raspy voice, my rituals, my swag, everything but my sorrow. You don't want the mortality rates either. We earn at the hands of your laws that need enforcing, your cops who only see one equation on repeat, black equals wrong, black equals wrong, for white is right, white is clean, white is angelic, white is perfection, symmetry, intelligence, that led you to blow the nose clean off our Sphinx, burn the libraries of Timbuktu and Songhai, while your great Alexander the Conqueror brought victory to your civilized nations. You don't speak for me, but your ancestors enjoyed our skin, designed shoes of the softest leather ever known. Your great president happy to have the teeth of the one fractioned into 3/5 of a man to replace his own because we are good enough to be used as dentures. We are good enough to be like, just not to be. You don't speak for me. Though you write a twisted version of my history painted with the lies you pass down through your lineages like precious heirlooms to be treasured, and you dare to teach our children about who they are when you haven't come to terms with who you are. What kind of human can sleep on the horror you created by day? You don't speak for me. My ancestors do. Those folks you let drop to the bottom of the sea transformed as we have always been shapeshifters. You didn't know because we don't share all our secrets with persecutors of the innocent ones whose names we give to our children. Sojourner, Harriet, Mandela, Miriam, Biko, Nkrumah, Assata, Isis, Nikki, Sonia, Moses, Winnie, Selassie. We use our own words to tell, to write, to shout, to cry, to laugh, to speak our stories. Thank you.
Congratulations on
You
your
so much.
award.
Yes,
beautiful.
thank you, Tintawi. All right. Now we have Allison. Allison Johnson, are you here?
She is. Let me bring her up.
Thank you. Allison, thank you so much for coming today to announce our next presenter, Spencer Snyder.
So so there's a bio that Spencer has written, and then there's something that I personally wrote for Spencer. Should I read both or just one of them?
Read yours.
Okay. So when I first met Spencer Snyder, he was a youthful, bright-eyed, and effervescent 78-year-old. And a year later, he still hasn't changed. Spencer is a lifetime learner, intellectually curious, eternally creative, and a real Renaissance man. He is a painter, dancer, photographer, potter, and filmmaker. The breadth of his creativity is unparalleled. Always one to stay beyond class hours, wanting to perfect his last chosen craft, he would work with me on technical concerns, and our conversations would often turn to art, life, and the remarkable events of a creative life lived to the fullest. Those hours after class led me to realize that I was working with a really special person. As such, I am so honored to present to you Mr. Spencer Snyder.
Thank you so much. Whoa, what can I say? What a lovely surprise, thank you.
Spencer, would you like to share a bit about your piece?
Yeah, it's so this was in Allison Johnson's class last summer of actually it was amazing to find that you could choose brushes, so many different different techniques in the medium, but it started by a trip to Charlottesville to see Jefferson's home, and there was some graffiti on a wall. And the graffiti was, if you saw the original, it's an interesting transition or interesting journey. So this was white chalk on a black shiny wall, but I photographed it. I thought it made a nice photo, but when it came to making a painting, I realized there was the beginnings of something here, and I found that it is amazing how, looking at it now, I've got a print of it at home now that's 30 inches wide, but it could be a wall when I look at it like this. It's great. What I really feel is important about where I came to in making this is the sense of flow, the sense of the transition that it went through is also like the transitions we go through in life. And so I feel in a way, this can be, even though it's not objective, it could be seen as the multiplicity in life and the movement in life, the easy flow, the joyfulness too.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Spencer.
Thank you.
I wanted to, thank you. And thank you, Allison. I wanted to add that Spencer's image was the winning image in the image category this year and is the cover of our accolades booklet, which will hold all of the writing and images that all the contributors made.
I'm very honored.
We are too. Thank you so much.
Lots of people are applauding. The applause hands.
Thank you again, Allison. That was,
all right. Thank you. Okay, our next presenter is Gracie Valdez. Are you here?
I am here.
Okay, hello. Welcome.
Hey.
And
thank you.
Reading your poem In the Arena, which received an honorable mention. And I don't have a bio for you, but would you like to say a couple words or a few sentences about yourself? Or not do that and dive in? It's totally your call.
Thank you. This last few years have just had a huge amount of growth for me, and I wanted to trap them all in an area where they couldn't get lost, and I could pass them on to my daughter and any other children that I might have later on. And this was the best way I found to do that. So this poem is called In the Arena. And yeah. Memories, a never-fading arena with blood splattered on the floor. Look, another drink. Go ahead and have some more. Don't look back, just keep moving. Hold your head up or get knocked down in this blood-splattered arena every time I hit the ground. Pull me out, please, I'm drowning. My head hurts, I can't cry no more. Turn on the lights, somebody's screaming. Every time I hit the floor. Blue and purple, shades of green, things I just got used to seeing. I'm not angry, not anymore. Just can't seem to stop the screaming. Inside my head, voices so loud, don't forget all they've done. A constant relay of memories, sitting here under the sun. Can't you hear me scream, way down here on the floor? Be respectful, be polite. Don't let them see they've hurt you more. How long can you go before the pain makes you hit the floor? Here's a knife, just cut once more. Maybe then this will end. in this blood-splattered arena where the war would just begin. You have to talk. You can't keep this in. You know better, don't you dare. Someone keeps on screaming. It's the only sound that fills the air. Finding solace on paper with promises of safety. Safety, what a joke that was, until you know it wasn't. This boxing ring where I find myself sitting, trapped here crying, with blood covering my body, nothing to see but the bloody floor. Searching for the light, silently screaming at the door. Someone, please pull me off the floor. I am here, he says. Look up. Up at what? Where's the light? Fighting, silently screaming, sitting quietly in the night. Not a sound, I don't dare. Can't show them that it hurts. No crying, don't flinch away. It only makes it worse. And where were you? Fighting for me? Wait for the break of dawn, it's coming. In this blood-splattered arena, I just don't see it coming. I'm beaten, I'm used, I'm dirty. I promise you wouldn't want me. I do, I hear the call. Oh, so soft and sweet. A promise filled with safety, combined with promises of rest. Sitting, kneeling here, resting silently at his feet. Can't you see the bloody scars, I scream? Sitting on the floor. Can't you see what they've been doing? I can't take it anymore. Leave me alone, I'm too far gone. Am I really worth the saving? Yet in all of this, his promise held. Not once did I find him leaving. Look up, he said, just once. Let me show you you're not bleeding. Not my blood, not this time. You've got to be kidding. See for yourself. Turn on the lights. Show me where you're bleeding. Feeling mocked, I turn to see he's right. It's not me bleeding. Where then? Where? Where did it come from? Blood everywhere, I'm covered. Where did it come from? And one last time, I look up and see it's him. He's the one bleeding. His back so torn and shredded, bone and muscle are exposed. His hands are pierced through his feet. His side are filled with holes. And suddenly it's gone. It's gone. I can't hear the screaming. I'm sorry, folks. I lost my place. My little one in the background. Please forgive me.
Absolutely okay. Little ones need things.
Oh, look, she came to say hi. And one last time I look up and see it's him. He's the one bleeding. His back so torn and shredded, bone and muscle are exposed. I see his hands are pierced through his feet, his side with holes. And suddenly it's gone. It's gone. I can't hear the screaming. He hasn't left. He's here, you see. It's the darkness. It was lying. Twisted truth and without patience, deceived by my own flesh, I forgot to do the searching. Not my blood I'm covered in. Nope, not anymore. His blood, and in his hands, the keys to the door. In this blood-splattered arena where I start to understand, the blood's not mine. It's washed away. It's no longer on my hands. Sweating so hard it turned to blood, he was kneeling there to pray. Please, Father, please take this cup away. On this blood-splattered altar where hope became alive, the truth, the way, the life, all shining in his eyes. Upon the cross, he paid the price, beaten, bruised, and broken. On this blood-splattered altar where our sins have been forgiven. In the blood-splattered arena, he's holding out the keys. The fight is over, the battle's won. He's no longer on his knees. Seated high upon the throne, it's finished, don't you know? These keys I'm holding mean it's over. Not one more blow left to throw. The blood you see is past and gone. There's nothing left to look back on. No pain could ever overcome. The power of the blood that's been shed, the cross I'm no longer on. The truth of what I've done, no one can close that door. In this blood-splattered arena where faith pulls you off the floor.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And thanks for rolling with the kiddo in the middle. We appreciate it.
Mom, can you open?
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Mom, can you?
Our next reader is Ida Starkovich. Are you here, Ida?
I don't see Ida's name.
Ida was a runner-up for the poetry category, and her poem was called, or is called, Thanks for That. So you can look forward to reading that in the accolades booklet. Our next reader is AJ Wood. AJ, are you here?
Yes.
Fantastic. I'm going to read your bio unless you would like to read your bio.
Go ahead.
Okay. AJ Wood is a non-binary author who enjoys horror, science fiction, and fantasy. When they aren't writing, they enjoy cute pictures of cats and trying not to look too closely at the dark space in their closet. They are currently working on their associate's degree in English with a creative writing focus, and AJ won the fiction category with their piece called Soulmates. Congratulations, AJ.
All right. Thank you. This was inspired by a prompt that I happened to come across, and I just really resonated with the prompt, so I decided, hey, I'm going to write this out and see what happens. So this is what happened. She died on January 1st, 2018 at 2:17 a.m. They told me that I wouldn't want to see her body. Car crashes have a way of doing terrible things to faces, they said. You don't want to remember her like that, they said. They'd rub my shoulder in comforting little circles. I remember the staticky heat that motion left, but I don't remember much else. I said all right to a closed casket funeral because it made her family more comfortable. I didn't tell them that I'd seen her face anyway, all the little micro expressions coalescing into one big scream of terror before the steering wheel impacted her chest. I've always had a vivid imagination. Besides, what I wanted wouldn't change anything. It wouldn't bring her back. So all things considered, I decided it didn't matter in the end. I went to the funeral, I came home. I don't remember much about that either. I told her I'd drive her back home if it snowed too hard. She said, don't you dare. You've got a job interview tomorrow. Get some sleep. I wish we'd had better last words. I thought about moving near her cemetery for a while. I hated tripping on the string. The damn thing just grows longer and longer like an untrimmable fingernail, trying to reach where they're buried. Eventually, you can't avoid it getting under your feet. Worse, you never knew when it would happen. Sometimes you'd be cooking and there you'd go, ass over tea kettle, like some jerk had pulled the rug out from under your feet. You'd wind up covered in freshly chopped onions, if you were lucky. Some people wound up in the hospital with third-degree burns. Spaghetti was dangerous to cook if you were missing half. There were safe recipes posted online alongside tricks for avoiding tangles in the first place. I tried both, but nothing ever worked for me. The string kept coming unraveled whenever I wasn't looking. 3 months after, I woke up to get a drink of water and tripped down the stairs on the way back, broke the glass and had to clean it up while Muffy watched. He was her dog, a doofy little thing and not my first choice of mutts. Probably half bully mix, judging by his broad snout. She always said he made her feel safe. I'd always asked how safe she could possibly feel with a mutt who'd roll over for anyone who gave him a tummy scratch, burglar or friend. After she was gone, I started to understand what she saw in him. Muffy was a smart cookie. I think he knew a little of what was going on. He had started sleeping at the foot of my bed a few days after, and he'd always follow me upstairs if I went for water. He'd seen me break glasses before. I think if he could have grown hands and helped me, he would have. I glanced over at him and saw him sitting there with his sad, patient expression, his ears raised up. I guess that's what broke me. I was sitting there with shards of glass piercing into my fingers with the sad little mutt watching me like he understood, and for once I realized he did, in his own doggy way, and it was midnight and I was so thirsty, but here I was on the floor with him and my brief tied tight around my ankles, threatening to shimmy up and wrap itself around my throat, and I couldn't take it anymore. I couldn't take it anymore. They say when sadness finally comes out of you, it's a relief. I didn't feel relieved. All I felt was howling, ripping itself up my throat like it'd been waiting for this moment. Muffy joined in, and together we made something that sounded as close to my grief as I've ever gotten. My mom had tried to tell me not to fall in love with shooting stars. I never listened. I liked the ones who drove too fast and lived too hard and died too young. I always was impulsive, but so was Marcy. We spent our childhood staring each other to climb higher, go further, run faster. I loved that about her. She always knew just what to say to push me to my limits and not an inch past. Climbing trees turned into driving fast and crashing parties. Nothing too dangerous, just enough to taste a lick of the flame before it burned out. Eventually, I got tired of parties and long nights, but Marcy never did. She'd call me and talk about all her wild nights, and I'd eat it up. Really, we could have talked about anything. That's the beauty of our kind of friendship. It doesn't matter what you say if it's one of you saying it. I encouraged her. I loved our little red string twined tight around both our fingers. I couldn't risk losing it, or her. So if you want to blame someone, blame me. I wound up with the scissors in my hands without realizing. I lifted the string up to my eyes. You could just see it if you squinted, or if you were looking for it. I put it between the blades of the scissors experimentally. Muffy whined. I expected something to happen. Nothing did. The string just lay there draped between the blades. I stared at it, willing myself to feel something. I pushed the scissors together so lightly that it wouldn't have cut a fly's wing. Nothing. I put the scissors down. Marcy wasn't coming back, but I would spend my life like this, tripping over her string in the dark. I'd shatter glasses, and Muffy would stare balefully at me as I picked up the shards. I would go out and buy more glasses, and the cycle would repeat endlessly until the day I died. I almost accepted it. I almost put the scissors back. But I swear I heard Marcy say, "Don't you dare." They say she was going 80 when the wheels spun out from under her on a patch of ice she didn't see coming. She panicked. Nobody knows why. I think maybe she caught herself by surprise. She'd never really lost control before. I think I felt some of that when I grabbed the scissors and cut through the string. It was like knowing you're sliding out and knowing too that you can't stop it, no matter what. I always was selfish. I just couldn't stand the thought of tripping over Marcy in the dark anymore. Thank you.
Thank you so much, AJ. Very beautiful. Our next presenter is Erin McKenna. And Erin, would you like for me to read your bio?
Sure.
All right. So Erin McKenna won an honorable mention for their image, Dreaming of Your World. And Erin writes, I am a professional journalist and marketing consultant who is pursuing a social media specialist certificate at SFCC in order to increase their marketing skills. I have many national and regional awards for my writing, but I have only been developing my graphic design skills during the past 3 years. It is exciting to receive my first award for my graphic work, and I will show you this piece as soon as I figure out how to get back to Zoom. 1 second. All right. Here we go. So it's not my video, but I'm going to share screen, I hope. Okay. All right, Erin, would you like to say anything about your piece?
Sure. This piece actually started from shells. We had to, for our final project for Allison's Photoshop class, do a composite. And one of the things was to bring in things that we could scan to make interesting textures. And I was searching around my house and spotted my baskets full of shells and thought, okay, that'll work. And then I thought, but what can I do for an image that those would work for? And I looked up, I did a search on poems about the sea, because we were supposed to use a poem or something along that line. And of course, the first thing that came up was Under the Sea. And I immediately had a full-blown thought in my head of Ariel with images of her world as she dreams about the world she wants to be in. So that's how that came about.
Thank you so much, Erin. Wonderful. It sounds like a fun creative process as well. All right. Oops. Let me go back to my video. Our next reader is Kate McCahill. Kate, are you with us?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Thank you so
I'm
much.
having some technical difficulties over here.
You're in though.
Kate McCahill is a member of the English faculty at SFCC. Her book is Patagonian Road, A Year Alone Through Latin America. And Kate is going to read a very special piece that she wrote called A Tribute to Mary Lou Butler. And it's about a student who was in our last edition of Accolades, who was an award-winning writer last year, and who has since passed. And so this is in honor of her. And thank you so much, Kate, for reading your piece, introducing Kate McCahill.
Thanks. Can everyone see me okay?
Yes.
Okay, the reason that I ask is not because I want you to look at me, but because I brought, I have right here Mary Lou's, you know, like the bulletin from her memorial service. So you can kind of get a sense of how beautiful she was. And she passed on, you know, right. The timing was sort of like terrible, but also she was spared a lot of what we're going through right now. But she was so passionate about writing. And is Judy here actually? Not sure, but like she and Judy were two really important writer friends to me and students as well. And so some of you have heard this already because I read it at Mary Lou's memorial service, but Emily asked me to read it here. And of course I said yes. So I apologize if this is repetitive. And I also apologize in advance, mainly to Mary Lou, if my internet goes out all of a sudden, but I really appreciate you all being so patient with me. And just, you know, as I'm reading, just thinking about Mary Lou, whether or not you knew her, you could just send good energy her way and just loving thoughts. I think she could really perceive, and Judy as well. So Mary Lou was born on April 2nd, 1944. And she passed on February 6th, 2020, as you can see here. When I think of Mary Lou, I see her in the classroom, sitting with her coat on and her book stacked in front of her, notebook open and pen in hand, eyes bright. Mary Lou leaning forward so as not to miss a single word, raising her hand to ask smart questions, furiously scratching down notes as someone replies. Mary Lou, on the very first day I met her, sitting beside Judy in an otherwise empty classroom, portable coffee mugs on the desk and their faces expectant. Before I met Mary Lou, I spent years bumbling around trying to figure out who I was. I would add that I'm still definitely doing that. When I moved to Santa Fe just over 8 years ago, I had 2 adjunct classes at the community college and a cocktail waitressing job at night. Scrambling to make ends meet, I pitched a travel writing class to continuing ed, and it was accepted. On that first Saturday, my heart beating hard, I woke up early and spent hours prepping, then drove to campus, found the right classroom, and went in. Mary Lou and Judy, the first students to arrive, were waiting there for me, already seated in the same chairs they'd occupy for the rest of the course. I must have looked terrified and probably unqualified, but Mary Lou and Judy just smiled and told me they'd read my bio and they couldn't wait to know me. I still remember the way they made me feel that morning, like I'd arrived somewhere safe, somewhere I finally belonged. Since that first section of travel writing, I've taught dozens of courses, some pleasurable, some a strain, all learning experiences. Still, that first travel writing section shines brightest in my mind. I taught travel writing 3 more times, and each time Mary Lou and Judy signed on. Judy had a poet's background, but Mary Lou was all academia, and at first her writing style was so formal, analytical, factual, and linear. A little daunted, I gave Mary Lou what feedback I could, take risks, I urged her, make a mess, show, don't tell. Of all the students I've ever had, Mary Lou turned out to be the bravest. From her first essays and travel writing, which recounted day by day recent vacations through the American West, Mary Lou's writing evolved into something much more artful, more emotional, and profoundly more complex. A woman with an exceptional career behind her, Mary Lou never once got defensive about my 26-year-old's critique of her work. She never ever boasted about her rich and varied professional experience, and she always came to the table with a mind open to progress and growth. When asked to give more, Mary Lou gave. She wandered down paths in her writing that I haven't dared visit. Her parents' deaths, her family secrets, her own nighttime dreams, subliminal visits from the departed. With every assignment, Mary Lou's writing loosened its hold on itself, like she was becoming someone else on those pages, someone new. I've heard that the more life experience someone has, the harder it is to change them. This line I cut, but I'll read it to you here. I didn't read it at Mary Lou's memorial. People warned me of this when I got married. You get what you get, and you shouldn't try to alter anything. People can't change. But from the very start, Mary Lou proved that old adage wrong. Every semester, every class meeting, and every single day, Mary Lou worked to become a better, wiser, and more compassionate version of herself. Over the course of the past 8 years, I watched her linear academic writing transform into something daring and vivid. She made herself vulnerable on the page. She treasured feedback from anyone willing to share it, including 18-year-old boys. With her ego safely on the back burner, Mary Lou lived every day like the gift that it was, mindfully with passion and gratitude. She loved words, admired what they could do, and made the most of every literary opportunity, including the day we sneaked in with the high school class to hear novelist Colum McCann speak. In every classroom I enter for the rest of my life, I know I'll find Mary Lou somewhere in there. And in online classrooms too, like this one, waiting for me, listening hard, pen poised ready over the page. The following passage was taken from Mary Lou's essay, Breaking Ground, which was published in the 2017 issue of the Santa Fe Literary Review. Of her life's accomplishments and her willingness to live outside the box according to her own values, Mary Lou wrote, I know I am different. My life of advocacy has meant fostering equality and self-determination in support of all life. As ordinary citizen, I work for change, a member of Code Pink Women for Peace, a voter registrar, a promoter of environmental and social justice. The call to activism, to bear witness, even to engage in civil disobedience is more urgent as threats to life become more dire. My hope is that our collective seeds of activism will break ground in time to make a difference. The responsibility to protect the vulnerable and underrepresented wherever they show up is greater than I imagined when I first proclaimed my values in our Philadelphia row home with the faded beige wallpaper.
Thank you so much, Kate.
We love you, Mary Lou. We miss you so much.
Me too. Thank you so much.
That was beautiful.
Mary Lou, in learning and writing. All right. Well, our next presenter is Josiah Rise, and Saya won the instructor-nominated category for his essay "Stray Anatomy." And Josie, would you like for me to read your bio for you?
You can do it.
Okay. Josiah is a writer. He wants to tell stories through a variety of mediums, such as essays, comics, animation, zines, and interactive media. Thank you so much for being here, Josie.
Thank you. The name of this is Stray Anatomy. There is an anchor in my chest. It is embedded in the space between my lungs, and when I inhale deeply, you can see it protruding from between my ribs. There's a rope tied to the anchor. It wraps around my lungs, and the frayed end lies limp and coiled in a back corner of my skull. This is the place where I exist. I think people exist at some point in relation to themselves. If you ask my mother where she exists, she would say she exists in this chair she is sitting in, among these people she is surrounded by. If you ask my father, he would say he exists in this body he has been given. If you ask me, I will tell you I exist somewhere in a recess in the back of my mind. When my mother speaks, her voice comes through clear and loud because it manifests in the space between her and the person she is talking to. When my father speaks, his voice is rumbling and deep because he makes it in his throat and it has to come out through his mouth. When I talk, it sounds muffled and mumbling because I say it from inside my head and it has to reverberate out through my skull, and the acoustics in here aren't very good. As a policy, I do not touch the anchor nor its rope, and I only observe it from behind glass and in the presence of a professional. This is how I tend to live my life, and for the most part, it works. Sometimes, however, I'm caught off guard. Sometimes I will come home and my family will be waiting in the study like some Agatha Christie detectives, and they will lock their eyes on me, and it will be too late because before I can protest or flee, they have clamped their fists around my wrists and ankles, and they will be dragging me towards the lovely bay window. Why are you doing this? I know why. There's something buried, they say, down in the depths beneath this house. There's something down at the bottom of my depths, they say, beneath my head and my lungs. And if I could dive down and retrieve it, they say, that when I surfaced with it clenched in my teeth, that I would be whole and they would be happy and we could all go about living. I beg them to postpone, to reconsider. There's nothing down there, I'll say. I'm really not a great swimmer. I try to tell them this, but their mind is set, and so the big double windows are thrown open and they count to 3, and I am heaved out over the railing to plummet into the depths below. An hour later, I will wash up onto the beach, tired and numb. There will be no treasure glinting from between my teeth. They say there is something down there at the bottom of the ocean in the pit of my stomach. They say that if I were to follow the anchor down, let it carry me deeper into myself, that there will be, and there must be, something down there waiting to be discovered, unearthed, overcome, anything. But I do not think so. I have come to the conclusion that there is nothing down there, and it is all best avoided. I have learned this about myself these past few months. I have learned a lot these past few months. I have learned what it is like to sit within this mind, in this body, in this chair, and I've learned what it feels like to leave all 3. I've felt what it's like to be sitting in a chair and yet not. I've felt what it's like to be in my body and yet outside of it. I know what it's like to exist within my mind and yet see its contents projected out in front of my eyes. I have sat in a cushioned chair in a psychiatrist's office with flowers painted on the wall. I have had a plush blanket laid over my body and a blindfold wrapped over my eyes. I have had a $500 disassociative cocktail injected into my veins as lo-fi beats played through my headphones. And because of all this, I know what it is like to take that amorphous, unknowable mass of feeling and hurt that constricts my lungs, and to rip it open like a carcass, to scatter the flesh and bones and wrought iron apart, and to see it for what it is. It is intense, to say the least, to allow your particles to be separated far enough that you can slip through the spaces in between them. But the benefit is that I get to look at my mind and my body not as an organ, but like an exploded diagram of an engine, with every screw and sinew pulled apart so as to be studied. When I am done and sobered and driven home, I understand something I didn't know before. I have learned that my particles are more elastic than I thought they were. They can be stretched and shifted and moved through. I've learned that I can move freely within and throughout my mind and my body. That does not constrain me in the way I thought it did. I have learned that I can move out of my mind and through my body so that I may speak more clearly. I have learned that the anchor is more dangerous than I thought. Here it might kill me one day. But I've also learned that the rope, at least, can be severed.
Thank you so much, Josiah. Great job. All right. Our next reader is Joseph Gray. Are you here, Joseph?
Yes.
Fantastic. Joseph, I'm so glad you're here, and you are one of 2 runners-up in the poetry category for your poem, Song of the Brainflower. Would you like for me to read your bio, or would you like to read it?
Yes, you can read it.
Okay, great. All right. Joseph recently moved to Santa Fe after living in the Washington, D.C. area for several years. He has played the violin for most of his life and plans to continue with music in the future. Thank you so much for being here, Joseph.
Song of the Brainflower. Hell to me is something different, not a resting place of death, not a final destination, not a drawn-out final breath, not a place of hate and fire, not a place of much at all. Hell to me is stationary, moving forward nor back, trapped in mire of your own making, caught in gray, ensnared in black. Withered, warped, unusable, this is where you have no choice, where to go or where to stay. Your options here are live or live, your options here are die or die. Tapered down to isolation, barred from burdens of mankind, tighter circle of inclusion. Solitary tongues of fear advanced, air untouched by wind or noise, softly, slowly rising up from the dust, beneath the feet, in the eyes, under the hair. Purgatory silence becomes a light, which silence is not still at all. Not a sound you hear with your ears, not an echo you taste on your lips, jarring, clicking, humming, praying on the very strings of your mind. Was I ever safe from chaos, where existence be so calm, as it was in some past world, where innocence and love prevailed? Veiled before my eyes now, seemingly a fantasy, long forgotten memory. Strange taste in my mind now, as I fight to disillusion from this suffocating prison. Sensations of my past now find their way to light on the tip of my perception. A bird alighting on sentient earth, my eyes are opened. My eyelids are closed, as I remember then. Dark and folded, root and soil, tightly covered, soft and holy. Sprouting, finding, glow of light, air, water, seedling, growing, spreading, learning, sprang from earth, tended, cared, little foundling, never cursed. One sings, another waits, in turn, for their tiny thanks. Thoughts were processed into glasses. Gathering my pollen is their mean, provenance for plentiful, foundation for the flightless ones. But once the knife of flame descends, abandonment and loss for the first time become truth, red and damaged, torn and barely sustained by the hope that soon be gathered into the basket of life to share my glass with those with baskets themselves. The purpose to why I remain comes into question when I think about how soon has come and gone and left, alone amid the cracked black earth with no sigh of atonement and no chance for silence to be broken by anything other than the constant humming permeating the air, my memory. Be repeated, or will it be left to rot as the last tie separating me from sanity, the final remnant of my life below? Do I get to help the weary, sick, abandoned, full of woe, if I make but one soul brighter with gleaming light of evening sunshine? Will my plight be ever lifted? Will my fight be ever won?
Great job. Thank you so much, Joseph. So happy that you can make it today. All right, our next reader, or actually we have an image now. The image that we'll be sharing is from Joshua Haggard. Joshua, are you here?
I am.
Fantastic. Joshua, would you like to read your bio, or would you like for me to do that?
Either way.
Okay.
Or go for it.
All righty, I shall. Let me pull up. So Joshua won an honorable mention for his image, the surrealist triptych photograph of 360-degree images stitched together, and it is entitled Journeys. And I'm just pulling it up. Let's see here. Thank you for your patience, everybody. Can everyone see?
Yes.
Okay, great.
So yes, this is 360-degree photos. I've been trying to specialize in cameras that take 360 spheres, and I realized halfway through the semester in my photography class that some of them could be merged, and so this is 369 1,080 degrees in a single picture. And so yeah, that's pretty much that. This is my friend Jake. He got his master's degree, and so I made this for him and printed it out for him for his for a graduation gift.
Thank you so much.
And I have a reading, just because that was super short, if we've got some time.
Please.
So this is an excerpt from a novel I'm writing. It's been a while since I've touched it, but it's about time travel, so stick with it. It's a little non-linear. A Shadow's Gray. It all began, as many things do, at the beginning. The universe happened, though whether this was intentional or the result of a cosmic bender by the Almighty is still up for debate. Infinitudes of time passed, which brings us to the events of tomorrow, or yesterday, for those who are still dealing with linear time. She sat, as she did every Tuesday, by the window, blinds half drawn so that she could see the nice lawn, and half closed so that she could ignore the highway above it. The sound she used to drown with the gentle beat of the washing machine, in which she had placed only her sheets so that the water churning could be predominant. Now it drowned out the silence. The stale, tepid tea sat ignored alongside its brothers, all made, steeped with care, and then placed behind the chair absent-mindedly after several sips. The record had been 5 mugs, which was only broken after she had run out of clean ones, and wondered where they had all wandered off to. Her book, The Things Which Are, consisted of a long list of facts, tidbits of information, strung together with just enough flimsy narrative to be considered a novel. It was her favorite, and she could read it repeatedly because, quite frankly, her memory was shot. So each read-through was a treasure trove of trivia. The colossal collapse of society hadn't affected her routine much, really. The solar panels made the washer run and heated the water. The dragging sound of cars replaced by a horrible stillness. Keep the garden, wash the clothes, make the tea, drink the tea, forget the tea, read the book. It was a bit of a surprise when the sky turned red and silent lightning crashed around, but she closed her blinds and it wasn't an issue anymore. That is, until her lamp started sparking red as well, which she promptly ignored. It wasn't until one big spark jumped into her teacup as she sipped it, and it turned back into clean water, that she decided to take an interest. It reverted to tea, then to water, and back again over the next several hours. She placed a flashlight underneath and stared into the undulating fluid for a while, until she got bored and made a new cup. It soon joined its brothers and sisters behind the chair, currently a family of 3. Her new lava lamp added cheerful warmth to the already cozy room, especially when it would spark red as if lit on fire from inside. She read the book, drank some tea, and went about her day every day, and most likely would have until she died, had it not been for the terrible crashing sound that collapsed her reality. She had, just once, out of idiosyncratic automatic decision, picked up a cup out of the room instead of having made a new pot. It happened to be the one containing a red spark. She looked up at her teacher, a balding man with a mild demeanor who was completely competent as a teacher and completely not as anything else. She reached for her tea to calm down, though why she suddenly felt like hyperventilating she couldn't remember, and her memory was eidetic. She had no tea. Why would she have tea? She was in the middle of class, near the middle of the room. And yet she distinctly remembered making tea not 5 minutes ago. A swell of strange vertigo overtook her, but she kept her calm as best she could. High school was hard enough. She didn't need to spaz out in the middle of the day. She looked out the window at the blue sky with a few excellent clouds. She felt even more unsettled, like something in the world set right. A tension in her shoulders she didn't remember developing, releasing. She looked at the closed blinds with glowing red edges. She felt the weight of her mug in her hand. She sipped the tea. She placed the tea behind her with the 6 others. She stood and went to make some tea. She walked to the class bookshelf filled with related material for the textbooks in the hopes of greater understanding, untouched all year long. She looked out at the Browning School lawn covered in orange and red leaves. They looked like fire, and the tension in her shoulders returned. She looked at the crimson sky. The blinds still rattled as she yanked them up. In the middle of it, she saw a dark void slowly opening, crackling into the air like lightning lingered. The universe slowly cracked and shattered around her. She reached out into the pile of 10 mugs, grabbing the one that still gently wafted steam. She breathed in as her door began to fragment out of existence before her. She sipped the tea and smiled. She fell to the floor, startling the nearby students. One, with particularly strong hearing, made out the words, "Well, at least the tea was nice," before she fell unconscious.
Thank you so much. And thank you for that surprise reading.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. Thank you, Joshua. All right. Can't tell if that's okay. Our next reader is Tintawi. We're going to invite Tintawi back to read the winning piece in creative nonfiction entitled Orphan. Tintawi, are you there?
I'm here.
Welcome back.
Okay.
Thank you.
My grandma Evie didn't know where the name Jim Crow came from, but he reminded her of her place in society. The laws that he set in motion marked her journey long before she was even born. She associated his presence with her daddy's absence. Jim Crow was the reason why she carried the last name of her mother instead of a father like the other kids in her school. He instilled so much fear in Black people, there was a little time for much of anything except survival. Those laws, named after a minstrel show, were responsible for her mother, my great-grandmother, Big Mommy, being a single mother for many years. There was no maternity leave in the 1920s. And as far as resources, well, you had to be your own resource in those days. If you were Negro, you relied on your community for support. That is, if you had community. So Big Mommy took the week off, and she prepared to welcome her new baby. It might not be much of a welcome, but something was better than nothing. Her stomach was so full it overwhelmed her 4-foot, 11-inch frame. Her skin seemed like a worn-out rubber band, smooth and stretched to the max. Her ankles were so swollen it was hard to tell where her leg ended and her ankle began. She soaked them and rubbed them down with castor oil. Then she would pour that same oil all over her belly to stop the itching. During the daytime, she sewed diapers and a baby quilt out of her worn-out aprons and cloths. From the leftover scraps, she made itty-bitty nightshirts. She spent the afternoons hand embroidering the back of Evie's diaper covers with 3 little blocks. Each block had a letter stitched inside, A, B, C. The bottom drawer of her dresser she removed from its place, wiped it down with oil and placed it on the floor near her bed. Inside of it, she placed a piece of lambswool. The quilt she was sewing would go on top. In a short time, her baby would use this as a crib. It was April of 1929 when her labor pains began, 6 months before the nation and the world succumbed to the Great Depression. She checked herself into the new maternity ward of the Woods Hospital. Private rooms didn't exist, so she laid in a bed listening to the screams of other laboring mothers. Like the women before her, she prepared to welcome a child with all of herself. There was no time for her to be depressed or even consider that as an option. She brought forth her daughter in silence, never shedding a tear or uttering a word. No cards or flowers sat on the table by her bed. She watched as relatives came to pick up the other women, their newborns in tow. They were all smiles, holding their babies while being flooded with congratulations. No one came to greet her or to extend blessings. A few days after she gave birth, with her underclothes still heavy, with the cloths to catch the bleeding, Big Mommy walked to work. She carried her newborn baby, my grandma Evie, in a wicker laundry basket to her job at Tudor Hall. She worked at the Rathskeller restaurant and ballroom there. Her fair skin proved to be an asset. She could easily pass for white, and they'd much rather have a white-looking domestic than a dark-skinned colored girl. Every day she walked to work. She kept her reddish-brown hair pressed and rolled up under a dainty lace scarf. She thought if you wore it down, that was like advertising or something. Her work dress was always immaculate, starched and pressed. She was a beautiful woman. She glowed, but that beauty had left her pregnant and abandoned. She wasn't about to let that happen twice. She put her mind in the work. That was what was important. There was no time for feelings or daydreaming about love when floors needed mopping. To keep her baby from crying, she'd give her a clean rag dipped in sugar water, and that would buy her enough time to shine the silver. The Rathskeller never had a more dedicated worker. Big Mommy scrubbed the floors while her baby napped. She polished all the tables with linseed oil until she could see her reflection in them. The velvet cushions on the chairs she brushed clean. In tall pots that she filled with hot water, she scrubbed the table linens, hung them out to dry, then ironed, starched, and placed them over a rack so they wouldn't wrinkle. Evie smelled so much lye and vinegar as a baby, she thought it was her mother's scent. Her salary at the Rathskeller paid the fee for the room she rented. She kept just enough over that to feed Evie and herself. The rest she saved. Every dime she earned, she dropped into a glass mason jar. There was a prayer stuffed in there too. It was the Bible story where the Lord talked about building a house on a solid foundation. Big Mommy had a vision and worked tirelessly to fill that jar. She worked and never seemed tired. When she had a few minutes in between chores, she went in the closet and fed her little girl. She didn't expect anyone to give her a handout because no one ever had. When Evie grew too big to sit in a laundry basket, Big Mommy paid the landlady where she had a room to look after her. This continued for a few months until she came home one day early from work to see her daughter sitting in a soiled diaper, eating cold grits on the floor. Sad, but not knowing what else to do, she sent her to live with a friend and her husband in South Carolina. She got 1 week off for vacation, which she would spend with Evie every summer. 1 week out of 52 to see her baby girl. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tantawi. Thank you. That's beautiful. Important. We have 3 readers left, and our next reader is Lucy Kaltenbach. Are you here, Lucy? Oops. Let's see.
She's here. I'm trying to unmute her. There you go, Lucy.
Thank you
There you go.
so much, Val. I was looking for your name, Lucy.
Sure.
Welcome. And would you like for me to read your bio, Lucy?
Yes, sure, yeah.
Okay. Lucy won an honorable mention for her poem Precipitation in the poetry category, poem. Lucy Kaltenbach is a dual credit student in Santa Fe Community College and the master's program high school. In addition to poetry, she likes dancing, classical ballet, doing math, reading fantasy novels, and learning about dead things buried in the ground. However, I enjoy that myself. Thank you so much. Welcome, Lucy.
Thank you. Precipitation. Midnight in a foreign city. Arrival through gardens, sunken flowers dense in the eye, to the rattle of tambourines. A room, square and plain like 1,000 others, the soft song of a creaking door, the ache of feet against a wood floor. My sister, stifling a yawn. Bathroom stalls, the smell of cleaner, lemon, sulfur. Sleeping on carpet, breath curling up in wisps of fog, images breaking in waves. Golden rivers, rivers of mud, gray houses, milky days under rose clouds. Men on stages, men who dive, women on roofs, children running, later reaching from trees as the water rises. Daybreak in desolation, evacuation by helicopter, shredded fabric taut in red lines, streaming in wind over a desert of water.
Thank you so much, Lucy. Very beautiful. Thank you. Our next reader is Maria Martinez. Maria, are you here with us?
Yes, sorry, I'm making dinner for my family.
Good job. Thank you for doing that on everyone's behalf. I'm sure they're very grateful. Maria, you have a poem called Eclipse, and it too won an honorable mention. Would you like for me to read your bio for you?
Yeah.
Okay. Maria Celeste Martinez is in her second semester at SFCC. She's first generation attending college in her family and aiming to get her associate's degree in dental assisting and will hopefully graduate in 1 more year. Thank you so much for being here, Maria.
Thank you for having me. Okay, so I just start. Okay. Sunshine, sunlight, sunrise. Sunray, first light, daylight. Honeybees pollinating blissfully. Pocket-sized brook flowing eternally. Dewdrops on melanin, sun-baked mane. Easy breeze and evergreens. A bit of luck, just enough, gratified. Euphoria, jubilation, exaltation. A walking daydream, a divine entity. Canyons with pearls in between. Kick up the dust in the weeds. Have you ever seen something so free? Illumination from the flame, irradiation for its sake. The dazzle has a dimmer, but the glimmer resides inside of me. Moonstruck, moonlight, moonshine. Moonray, star bright, nighttime. Fireflies no longer flicker. Everything is black and white. Dewy eyes made the statues oxidize. Enough, give up, tough luck. Conceal, protest, reject. Stargazing has become a hobby for fallen angels who can't say sorry. The chime of their change is too mesmerizing. Tidal waves have stolen the songbirds' voices and nature's chorus. Quintet of blue moons, still no good news. Celestial beings finally grieve. They cross paths, they meet in between. The beacon burns through flesh and greed. Harmony had never been seen. The child comes out from underneath, maybe who I've always wanted to be was me.
That's so deep. I had to look down and look at it while you were reading. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great job.
Thank you.
Oh my God. Don't time me, don't time me.
All right, so our final reader today.
I'm so excited.
Yay! Sylvia, would you like to introduce yourself real fast and then I'll read your bio?
Okay. Hi, I'm Sylvia and I'm excited to be here and I don't know what else to say. But Bethany, I noticed Bethany is here. Make sure you're listening to my bio because you're in it. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you so much, Sylvia. And Bethany, would you like to add anything or are you here? Which is great. Just, I'm so glad you're here.
I'm so happy to be here. And so I just want to say, Sylvia, I'm just so thrilled for you and you just deserve this. I am so happy for you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bethany. Sylvia is the winner in the personal essay category. And I'm going to read Sylvia's bio. Sylvia writes, I am from Santa Fe, New Mexico. One of my college teachers, Bethany Carson, encouraged me to keep letting my writing shine through the paper, and her kind words shifted my mindset in a way where writing became attached to my heart. I want to become a teacher, most certainly because I love to be silly and brighten others' days, even if it means putting a smile on someone's face or just being kind. My goals for my future are to keep writing and embracing all that I feel because it can be powerful, especially for those who feel so much internally but do not have the words to express it. What stunned me is how I got the email that I won for the personal essay category the same day as my grandma's 5-month anniversary of passing. And the essay so happens to be about her. It was heartwarming, and I know this was definitely a sign. I am truly grateful for being given the opportunity to share my writing. Thank you so much, Sylvia, and thank you for being our final reader as well. You may begin whenever you're ready.
Okay, so I was lucky enough before I start to show my grandma this essay before she passed away. And so she told me to read it at her funeral, so I ended up doing that as well. And my title is Aching Bones. Can everyone hear okay? Okay. My heart's beating. Okay. I try to see, okay, I'm gonna start now. I try to see through this frightening situation, just like anyone might try to see past the glare in a window. Hope is the anchor keeping me in place. Hope is saving me from insanity. I continue to ask myself, why does my grandma have to go through this? I try to channel my inner happiness for her. This is one of those situations in life where you cannot let fear be the focus of it. My grandma is going through a struggle which involves having to fight cancer. My grandma is a huge inspiration to me and the person I seek to become one day. Her mesmerizing hazel eyes only give a glimpse of how beautiful her soul is on the inside. She is one of those people who go above and beyond, try to make everyone happy and satisfied, even when she does not have the energy. What I love is she does every possible thing for the people she cares for and loves, no matter the circumstances or how she is feeling. Have you ever heard of someone having a pain somewhere in their body, but they don't necessarily think it is anything drastic? Hold that thought. I got a sudden call from my grandma. What is crazy is every time she called me, I was either thinking of her or I would get such a huge smile on my face because she lit up my day just by answering so sweetly. This time, her voice had an unhappy tone. So many thoughts started to run through my head. I heard words I never expected would come out of my grandma's mouth. The doctor did many tests, and he has told me that I have the early stage of pancreatic cancer. She choked up, and it was like she couldn't even process the thought of cancer. How can you express what you have a loss of words for? The tears didn't just form suddenly, but my heart had this pain that when I inhaled, it felt like something was building up inside of me that could only be released by exhaling. I did this for a moment and the pain went away. I can remember telling her, "You can get through this, Grandma. You have the strength and you have one of the biggest hearts." At first, I did not know what I should start doing to help her or even what to think because it made me realize how suddenly things can change in life, even to someone I love. It was a matter of seconds after I talked to her on the phone that I rushed to my brother's room so fast I even felt slightly lightheaded. I hurried into his room and I pulled him close and hugged him so tight. "Sylvia, what's wrong with you?" he replied with his eyebrows curiously raised. The look of wonder filled his eyes. In the silence, all I could hear in that moment was my heart beating tensely, sounding like a drum about to bust. I tried to catch my breath. Then I told him the news that left him with a blank stare of disbelief in his eyes. Us both didn't know something so special to us, like our grandma, would face this illness or must stumble with something life-threatening, being who she is. Deep inside my heart, I knew she was going to somehow conquer this. I could not and still cannot bear to even hear from anyone that things won't work out the way I pray it will. I know my grandma will overcome this. I believe this more than anything. I am beside the person who brings nothing but peace to my heart, my grandma. On this ordinary night, while every moment spent with her is nothing near the ordinary, there is something that adds to this time spent. While there is moisture filling our eyes, there is moisture in the air outside. It happens to be from the beautiful rain that manages to make my cheekbones work harder than they already are because I smile so happily with my two favorite things surrounding me. The rain is a refreshing feeling. We all need some type of fulfillment like that. It's crazy how something so little, yet so meaningful, can wash away my worries I have for my grandma. We are both sitting down directly across from each other in the kitchen on this soothing night. We suddenly stop what we were doing and look in each other's direction with this glossy look in our eyes. It all started with one tear that fell down her cheek. "You are beautiful and you are my life," she says, as she opened her arms to give me a hug. I immediately got up so fast because those words touched my heart, because she is a huge part of the reason why I am the person I am. For me, hugs are a huge part of healing. As we shared painful tears, this moment showed our appreciation we had for one another. I needed that very much. As me and my grandma walk through these hopeful doors of the church, my heart fills with the certainty that everything will be just fine. We walk up to the seats where we feel saved by the Lord. The blue lights reflecting onto the walls make my eyes water because my emotions are all over the place, just like the lights are. The smooth words being sung about God start to give me the type of goosebumps where there's no escaping that feeling, even just by gently rubbing my arms to make them disappear, only for it to reappear in seconds. I turn my head to see tears falling down my grandma's face, like stress trying to find its way out, but it keeps recycling itself instead. I reach to find her hand, holding it so tight my hand starts to cramp up. I tell myself in my head, I wish I could take all her pain and hurting away. If only the cancer could disappear from her body. I hold in tears like a little kid desperately tries to hold onto a balloon until it slips away unexpectedly and all tears begin to surface. But there's one thing keeping me together. It's something in my heart telling me no different than positive words of everything turning out to be okay. I just want to close my eyes and pray that somehow all of this was a dream, not this reality. I haven't let these tears roll down my rosy cheeks yet. Why is the pain challenging me physically even before it has hit me? Tears find their way out of my glands as if there was no end to it, like a waterfall. This knot beneath my clothes, in my stomach, not the knot that can be easily entangled, a more complicating one, which is making it all more challenging to cope with. It does not stop me from letting this song continue to fulfill my heart, and it feels like this hopefulness is radiating through my whole body, with the vibrating sensation helping me to let loose and release my tense shoulders. My body shrugs as I exhale slowly. The powerful vibrations of the song help me to, in a way, surrender myself from letting these emotions at the back of my head come forward into the clear focus of my thoughts. I look down only to see a teardrop fall and sink into my light-colored jeans. The one tear created a small dark spot on my jeans. This leads me to the thought that pops up in my head. It's like all the good energy is overpowering the small speck of negativity that is in sight. With this thought popping up in my head, clearly made me realize that there's more good in life than bad. Sometimes life reminds me of the ocean. There will always be a different wave that will hit you unexpectedly and pull you down in an instant. However, if you push through it and learn how to move with it, you will learn how to keep moving forward as you do with each obstacle in life. Right now, each day I see her, I'm doing my absolute best to give back all this happiness and love that she gives me and the people who have been in her presence. This experience has taught me that even if you aren't the one going through something, you can still help someone fight their battle by just being there for them so they can look to you for a smile. Helping my grandma face her cancer has helped me understand more deeply the significance and importance of life, and how a simple phone call can make me realize that living is not forever. It's hard to see what is ahead of today, but if you cherish each moment in your life and appreciate the little things, it will all be just fine. And that's it.
Thank you so much, Sylvia. And thank you, Bethany, for being here. And I'd like to invite Kelly Smith to the conversation. And Kelly, would you like to discuss what's next on the heels of Sylvia's reading, please?
May I make the announcement?
Yes, please do.
So we have some very incredibly generous donors, and one of the things that they created a few years ago was the Richard Bradford Creative Writing Endowment. And so this endowment pays $1,000 for a student to attend community college. And we have a young winner who is wearing a beautiful bright yellow shirt today. And we want to acknowledge Miss Sylvia for winning the endowed scholarship for Richard Bradford Creative Writing. Congratulations.
Oh my gosh! Feels like my birthday or something.
It's
so
your writing
exciting.
birthday.
Oh my gosh, I'm so happy. I don't know what to say. I feel really thankful right now and blessed.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Bethany, also for everything.
Yes, there you go. And to all the winners and runner-ups, I have emailed you an Amazon e-card to the emails that you provided to Miss Emily. So please look for that. If you don't find that in your email, so either your SFCC or a personal email that you gave, please let Emily know or myself, kelly.smith@sfcc.edu. So those are emailed to you and you should have those. And because we have such lovely donors, the winners receive $75 and the runners up receive $50. So that amount has gone up from the prior year. So congratulations to all of the winners and runner-ups.
Congratulations, everybody. And thank you so much, Kelly Smith. Kelly is from the SFCC Foundation. So thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
That concludes our reading today. And I'm just so honored to be here. And I thank each of you so much for taking the time out today, especially during finals week, to share your incredible work. And thank you to all the friends and family who attended. Thank you to the faculty and staff who made it. And thank you to Val at the library, to Peter Tossig with Media Arts. And thank you all. Just have a beautiful rest of your day. Thank you, everybody. Let's see if we can unmute everyone. And thank you to Kate McCahill. There's Kate, Allison Johnson, who I think had to take off. And thank you to our very, very fine, incredible readers and writers and artists.
I'm almost done. Thank you. Congratulations, Sylvia and everyone.
Thank you.
Congratulations, everyone.
Thank you. Everyone was wonderful.
Congratulations,
It's
everyone.
a pleasure to hear all of you. Rewarding.
I'll be sending a PDF version of accolades out to the email list that Val has from all the folks who registered. And then we will be creating prints once our bookstore copy shop is back in action. And you'll be notified when we have some copies for all of you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.